Impact on Your Health is sponsored by Dennis J. Courtney, M.D., Director of the Courtney Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002 for Dennis J. Courtney, M.D.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AIM Impact on Your Health. AIM Impact on Your Health, where every day our goal is to have you learn at least one thing to help you live better and longer. Of course, AIM Impact on Your Health is heard each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney, and I'm with you each and every one of those 8 to 9s on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. AIM Impact on Your Health, where each day you'll find current medical news, knowledgeable guests, fascinating health topics, and where we do encourage you to call in to join in. Today, it is a Friday version of the show. It's a get 'em up out of time version of the show. We're gonna get doused today. We're gonna cool off, and many of you are waiting for that opportunity. I guess we ought to have a little bit of showers come through sometime today before we turn the hot switch off and get down into some reasonable temperatures. And so, as we're moving into the weekend, I hope you have a fine one, and I hope you kick off your weekend with us and giving us a call today about what's on your mind. Anything on your mind is okay with me. The number to do that, of course, you already know it, 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. Now, I plan on, I've entitled this show, it'll find it in the archives, listed as the final word on the fructose connection, fructose and sweeteners. I opened this can of worms way back on May 26th, brought it up again just this past Wednesday, and actually I thought as I ended the show, I had more questions than I had answers, and so put our crack research staff on this entire issue of fructose and sugars and sweeteners. And, of course, the entire research staff is me. I've been busy looking over the Internet, checking out the resources. I think I do have the definitive word, the final word, on fructose with respect to the sugars and the sweeteners. You'll probably want to put a little check mark next to this on the archives. This is the source you need to turn to if any questions ever arise in the future with respect to these issues. And we'll get to that right after the first break. Should mention, I actually spoke to Dr. James Roberts. I call him Jimmy. You probably all call him Jimmy. You're used to hearing about him over the many years now that we've brought him onto our show. He's a cardiologist located over in Toledo, Ohio. No more jokes about Toledo. We got plenty of medical things going on in that town, and someday I'll tell you about all of them. Nonetheless, James had collaborated with Dr. Steve Sinatra, wrote, I believe, a definitive work on the subject of how do you take care of heart and blood vessel disease? How do you reverse it? In fact, they went ahead and named their book, Reverse Heart Disease Now. We've used it as a source. It sits on my desk. Many patients come in who've known me for any length of time and said, oh, yes, I see you have the book there. I've got the book, too. I've always encouraged you to buy it. Well, that author is going to be on the show with us next week. I tell you what, I get trouble. Every time I call that office, I get the gals with the football pads on that don't let me talk to Dr. Roberts. I finally got him in the flesh. They gave me a 15-minute window to call him the other day, and I contacted him right in that window. We did speak, and he's clearing out his schedule. He couldn't tell me on Wednesday when I spoke to him exactly what day that would be. That's why I'm telling you, check us out next week. Jimmy will be here. We'll find out what he's up to. We know what he has been up to. What's he going to be doing in the future? Well, inquiring minds want to know, and we will bring James Roberts to you next week. Keep mentioning, we got the books here for those of you who are interested in reading more about the spiritual, mind-body spiritual connection, in a book written by Deborah Ray in collaboration with her two medical colleagues, Dr. John Young and Dr. Aida Reyes. We've got plenty of copies of the book here. Stop in when you come in, ask for a free copy. We'll give you a free copy of the book. We'll also give you a taste of this wonderful stuff called Fruit of the Spirit, 14 biblical fruit purees, alkalinizing minerals from the Dead Sea. Throw in a couple of herbs, not just any herbs. How about frankincense and myrrh? Wow. And then finally, this off the cuff sort of doesn't seem to fit in the category, shouldn't be on the list, resveratrol. Yeah, that's right. It's in there too. Anyway, this stuff tastes so good. It's a way to start your day with 1 ounce, which is the equivalent of 5 servings of fruits and vegetables. You will not mind the taste. Your children and your grandchildren won't either. So, Fruit of the Spirit, get a hold of it. You can get it here, get started. If you're at home and want to do this, try this phone number. For those of you who'd rather do it by phone, 1-800-442-3793. That's 1-800-442-3793. As well as you can head to the internet, fruitspirit.net. That is not Fruit of the Spirit, that's fruitspirit.net. And follow the prompts that lead you to a list of doctors, which then you'll find my name, click on it, keep on moving down the line. About 2 screens later, you'll be ready to order at this new, interesting price of $29, which I think is a great improvement on how it was originally launched here in November of '09 by Deborah Ray herself, putting the full force of her reputation behind it, as you would well know by now. In November, when it was $39, so the price is going down. Now, I still keep coming back to my four phrases. Well, how do we call this? I'd say the four suspect statements of the thyroid afflicted. I mentioned these on Wednesday. I looked at them and I said, you know what? That is right on, spot right on, correct. I'm going to repeat them again. For those of you sitting out there in the listening audience, see if any of these questions happen to titillate you, because you're sitting there thinking, well, I don't have thyroid disease. These are the 4 statements that I think are highly suspect when it comes to the issue of thyroid, which we've spent a lot of time here on our radio show discussing, especially with our good friend Roy Carey. If you've come in to see me recently, you know I have especially with female patients, this is something that we go over with every single one of them to find out if they do need help. But these are those 4 suspect statements of the thyroid afflicted. They go something like this. Statement number 1. Hey, the thyroid? Oh, yeah. Look, my doctor thought I had thyroid disease once, and he went and got the blood work, found out I don't have thyroid disease at all. There's your first and the most common statement that I think I hear is that my doctor thought I had it, we went and checked, I don't have it at all, and I just say, oh, you just keep feeling as miserable as you do for the heck of it. Statement number 2. I love this statement because this is also a key tip-off to how you're going to be as miserable as you are now forever and think you're treating your thyroid disease. Statement number 2 is, oh, thyroid disease. Well, I'm already on Synthroid. Bad phrase. Bad statement. Equally bad, I'm finding in a high percentage of cases, way more than I ever thought there would be, is, thyroid disease, I'm already on Armor thyroid. Or even the one that I've put the full force of my reputation behind, called Nature's Thyroid, which are the actual hormones themselves. In fact, but in each case, they're 50% T4, 50% T3. It just, except in a few cases, the majority of cases, doesn't appear to get you there. So I call that suspect statement number 3. The final suspect statement is, and in my group of patients, this is where they'd actually like to be on any of these issues, and I've just found out that you can't get there from here. The statement is, oh, thyroid disease, look, I'm already on a whole bunch of supplements. I take iodine, I take glandulars, I take protomorphogens, and then the list, I take kelp, I take this, I take that, and as much as I would like to think that the non-pharmaceutical, non-hormone approach would be the ideal and would love to get you there, this region is just too endemic for thyroid disease. And the fact that we're smack dab in the middle of this thing called the goiter belt doesn't allow, in many cases, most cases, I'm saying except for a few cases, does not allow for you to rescue your thyroid gland. By the time you perk up and decide you're going to attack this, that thyroid gland is already shot. The way to handle this, of course, is through T3, and T3 only. It's called Cytomel. It's the newest way that we're practicing the treatment of this disease. You'll find out that I'll be on the lookout for those 4 statements when you come on in to see me here, especially the ladies. Okay, let's do this. I created a lot of fuss here in the last show. Started it back on May 26th. Today, with all the crack research that's been done, I'm ready to weigh in on what I'm going to call the final word on fructose and still sweeteners, as well as all the sugars. You'll want to have this listed in the archives, your own archive, for your reference in the future. When we come back, more on that subject. And by the way, still opening up to you, 412-825-6262. I'll wait to hear for a knock on the door. Be back in a moment.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. Have you become confused about how best to manage your health? It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instructions, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you are looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Honey, just got the word. The company's new health plan has a $5,000 deductible. We have to make sure nobody gets sick this year. Remember what those doctor's visits cost for last year's colds and flu? Oh, sorry, I gotta go. Love you.
We can do this. We can cut the fast food lunches. Soda, that's a lot of sugar. We could all take that evening walk. And hey, I heard a program about fruit of the spirit. What did they say? 1 ounce, the equivalent of 5 servings of fruits with herbs and minerals. We could add some to our breakfast protein shakes. Fruit of the Spirit is a unique whole fruit puree. Fruit of the Spirit contains fresh fruits native to the Holy Land and alkalizing minerals from the Dead Sea with no added sugar. Fruit of the Spirit is a unique product from 5 years of work from science-based nutritional experts. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. Fruit of the Spirit, convenient, affordable, and delicious. That's 1-800-442-3793. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to An Impact on Your Health here on this Friday morning version of the show. The Get 'em Up Out of Town version of the show. We are packing it in today, getting ready for a cool down here in the Pittsburgh area. But we're going to heat it up before it cools down because things are awful hot in here. Today we're going to let you come on in anytime you want, of course, if you have a question or comment, anything to contribute on the subject, or it doesn't have to be on the subject. I'll give you the number, and I'll give it many times throughout the show, 412-825-6262, with any question you may have, any comment you'd like to make. I decided on Wednesday, after I got off the air, that with the show I did on Wednesday, talking about, once again, this fructose issue, and on Wednesday, I really made the connection between the fructose and, I think, something that many listeners at least have heard of. Maybe they have tried it. We were talking about the fructose issue with respect to something called agave, which is a cactus-derived natural sweetener that many people have used. Turns out that might not have been such a good choice. On May 26th, when I initially started to pry open this can of worms, I talked about this fructose issue, which was the first time it ever was brought to my attention with respect to common table sugar. Well, on Wednesday, that led to more questions. Well, what about this sugar? Or what about that sweetener? What is the fructose content of them? And I said, you know what? I think I left most of my listeners a little bit confused. I asked more questions than I answered, and I felt an obligation to get cracking on the research so that I could really clear up, not only for you, but for me, too, on what these salient points are with respect to sugar, sweeteners, and this thing that's now turning out to be something that you got to consider. We've called it the fructose connection. Well, today is the definitive word on it. I hope that you will follow along with me, and I hope I don't get too technical. I don't want. I think I can keep this at a basic level so that you can appreciate and understand it. So here we go, the definitive word. Now, as I first started my research the other night, the internet was extremely helpful, obviously. Let's talk about the sugars first. That's what opened this can of worms, pried it open, at least back on May 26th, when I raised the issue of table sugar, which I know many of my listeners would run from and scream with garlic around their neck, clinging rosary beads, because table sugar, to the listeners of this show, are probably some things that you just never use anymore. And so it's not even unfair. It's not even fair to bring that up, but we got to start our discussion with it, because building on a little bit of a knowledge base then leads to a greater appreciation and a greater making sense of this issue about the fructose connection that we started back on May 26th. So here we go. With respect to the sugars, finally I saw in black and white a couple of salient points that laid the groundwork. Here they are. There are 5 sugars known as monosaccharides, and I had never seen that listed out in nice, clear, and crisp terms before. And here they come. The 5 monosaccharides are glucose, fructose, galactose, xylose, and ribose. Folks, there are only 5. They are called the monosaccharides. These 5 sugars serve as the building blocks for another group of sugars called the disaccharides. Well, yeah, you start hooking some things up of the monos and you get the dis. Namely, how about this one? Sucrose. That's table sugar. And that's the substance that I mentioned back on May 26th. Sucrose, lactose, maltose, trehalose, cellobiose. There they are. Those are the only disaccharides, and they're made up of bonding many of the monosaccharides together. We already know about the sucrose. The bonding there, this table sugar element, comes between a 50-50 split between glucose and fructose. And that's probably the most common. I don't see any of you having to wrestle with the issue of having maltose or trehalose on your breakfast nook. But the table sugar, if you don't find it on yours, when you're out and you're in restaurants, you certainly will find it there. A little bit of a refreshing information about sucrose. And really, the issue that I brought, that started this whole controversy back on May 26th. And that is the issue of table sugar, because as it turns out, it really has some well-known chemical consequences to its consumption. You look at it maybe as bad because of its it's challenging for insulin resistance, and the fact that there's a connection between it and diabetes, and there certainly is, as well as a connection between it and many other diseases. But the main chemical reason for one of the large set of complications that comes with the consumption of table sugar is the connection that it has to the production of uric acid. Uric acid appears to be the real big bugaboo, the real big nasty guy in the block, and the one that you have to prevent from rising to any great levels, because with it come a group of consequences. We've known about the consequences for years, but we always made the association between uric acid levels that were elevated and the consumption of proteins, like meats, like various legumes, beans, and the like. With protein consumption does come an increased production of uric acid, and always told patients who have kidney disease, because boy, elevated uric acid levels are associated with kidney disease, and which ultimately lead to things like hypertension, insulin resistance, elevated triglycerides, increase in obesity, fatty livers, LDL, and the like, and the list goes on and on and on. Uric acid has been connected with all of them. But the revelation that we brought to your attention on May 26th show was that the most profound way to increase your uric acid level isn't to consume proteins. It's to consume simple table sugar. That was the point I wanted to bring back to you on May 26th. I drove that point home. Turns out that this combination of this disaccharide called sucrose, which is made up of these two simple monosaccharides, one called fructose, the other called glucose. They're in a 50-50 dissociation split. The glucose, your body loves. Your body uses. Your body thanks you for using it, and it will get utilized one way or another. The fructose component, that's another matter, and that is what the intention was, to bring it to your attention about the ills and difficulties with simple table sugar. Turns out that this fructose, which this association and the elevation of uric acid literally happens within minutes of ingesting simple table sugar, that the generation of uric acid begins. Once the uric acid has been generated, it inhibits nitric oxide formation, which causes blood vessels to remain constricted. They lose their elasticity, and then there goes the blood pressure issue. Fructose should be avoided, certainly in table sugar, and that's why and another reason why you didn't think you liked table sugar to begin with. I can certainly empathize with why you never wanted to use it. I'm not so sure that it was because it would dissociate into fructose, and the fructose would be a problem you definitely wanted to avoid, but that's just the way it came out with us when we introduced this on the May 26th show. Some additional things that came to our attention in combination with our Wednesday show were these. Number one, looking at labels, as my listeners would do, and listeners to this station would do, looking for evidence of HFCS, because it could be stealthily hidden in the label as just that, HFCS, which stands for high fructose corn syrup, is an additive put in just about everything from food processors and manufacturers to sweeten up that which they bring to the market. And as it turns out, there are three kinds of HFCS. There's HFCS 90, which stands for 90%, HFCS 55, and HFCS 42. The only thing you need to know about them, as my research revealed, is that the percentages, of course, change with each one of them. The HS55, this is the type most commonly used in soft drinks. It's 55% fructose, it's 45% glucose. You add those two up, that equals 100. And it's certainly a high fructose content. The fructose component is the one you want to eliminate. The high fructose corn syrup, 42%, which is 42% fructose and 58% glucose. This is found in baked goods that are out within the supermarket, put in as an additive. And the HFCS 90, well, it's not really used in any particular food. It's just too high. It would be too sweet. But what they do is they make the HFCS 55 and 42 from it by diluting it out. So there you go. Table sugar is a no-no. The point that I thought we wanted to raise on Wednesday is this issue of its connection with a natural product that people have moved to called agave, and that's cactus derived. It's au naturel. It does have a low glycemic index, And so it beckons the enlightened consumer to try it because of these very interesting and positive properties. The point to make on our last show, and I think we did it, was that the agave nectar has a range of as little as 56, but as high as 92% fructose, depending on the brand, and consequently, that item which you never thought was a problem and would be a great thing and a great addition to your breakfast nook and placed on your table while you move the table sugar away, looking at it as something so terrible that you need the garlic around the neck and clinging with the rosary beads. Turns out that agave needs to be pushed aside too. It really has too much fructose to be of something that you should be using as your sugar substitute. Now, this fructose thing really did open a can of worms. I started saying, well, what's the fructose potential of this sugar or this sweetener? And of course, I went and dug out those things, and before the show's up today, I think you'll learn quite a bit about it with the fructose content, if any fructose content at all, is possible in the more popular forms of these sweeteners that you might be using. But opening the can of worms as we have with the fructose, I thought another interesting thing came by me with respect to the research that I did. And that has to do with the number one source for fructose, which is fruit. That's how they get that FR component, the fructose and the fruit thing, you know. That's why it matches up, because that's where you find in nature fructose. And it is found frequently in nature. So what about the common fruits that you might ingest? How much fructose do they have in them? Well, as it turns out, looky here. Papaya, 61%. However, because you, in 100 grams, and I know your little scale that you may have in the house doesn't measure grams, but just so we have a designation, in 100 grams of papaya, there's 2.7 grams of fructose. Now, it's 61% of the fruit, but it's 2.7 grams. Keep in mind the magic number. What we learned the other day was, as long as you keep your fructose consumption under 25 grams per day, you're okay. It turns out you can handle small amounts of fructose, and the body does just fine with them. So the term of everything in moderation turns out to be an appropriate rule to follow. This is certainly not brought to your attention so that you should shun the consumption of fruits. No, you absolutely should consume them, but you have to have an honest conversation about what may loom there in terms of potential harm. And you'd have to need an awful lot of papaya to get to over 25 grams, because there's only 2.7 grams in out of 100. But nonetheless, there you go, with a guide at least as to what some of these fruits contain. Anyway, mangoes listed, strawberries listed. The one that gets the most attention is the apple, because it ranks number one in fructose content. 7.6 grams out of 100 of any apple that you consume is the fructose component. That turns out to be 70% of that particular fruit in terms of the percentage split. Yet everybody should be consuming apples, because you don't eat 5, 6, and 7, and 8, and 9, and 10 apples at one sitting. I don't think you do. And that, coupled with the fact that the apple contains fibers, vitamins, minerals, and other nutritional goodies, cancels out the potential harm of going, number one, going over the 25 grams, and number two, because there are so many other goodies with it, no one is suggesting that you not consume these fruits because of the worry about fructose. Okay, enough about the sugars. There's part two. The part two is, what about the sweeteners? So we're going to take a short break. When we come back, I asked a lot of questions on Wednesday. What about this? What about xylitol? What about sorbitol? What about mannitol? Hey, these are all possibilities that could end up on your breakfast nook, and you need to know about each and every one of those. Seems I opened a can of worms anyway. Well, more on that subject when we return. Be right back to continue on the topic.
Want to help your family eat healthier? Instead of learning to disguise tofu in wondrous ways, how about some real nutritional power? If your family has the typical American palate for fries, pizza, and burgers, giving your family the blessing of good nutrition is a struggle. Fruit of the Spirit is the answer for your family's nutritional needs. Fruit of the Spirit is an all-natural, whole fruit puree made from fresh fruits native to the Holy Land with alkalizing minerals. Fruit of the Spirit was 5 years in the formulation, the work of a team of top nutritional experts with independent science to confirm its antioxidant power. 1 ounce a day provides the equivalent of 5 servings of fruits and minerals. Fruit of the Spirit is convenient, affordable, and delicious. Even your picky family will sing the praises of Fruit of the Spirit. Give your loved ones the blessing of good nutrition. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. That's 1-800-442-3793. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. Have you become confused about how best to manage your health? It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instruction, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you are looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Hey, good morning and welcome back to AM Impact on Your Health here on this Friday version, this Get 'em Up Out of Town version of the show. We're in lecture format, classroom format today, folks. You can interrupt this at any time if you'd like, however. We're talking about sugars today, sweeteners today, and I think, finally making a final word on the fructose connection with respect to all of them. I hope it's being received with the intention of educating you so that you can become a better consumer than you already are, and you're some of the best on the planet. You can interrupt at any time talking about the subject. You can go off subject. 412-825-6262 is the phone number to give us a call and knock on the door. When I hear that knock on the door, I'll let you in the store, and we'll talk about what anything on your mind is okie dokie with me. Okay, so here we are. The crack research team, me, was busy looking over the internet and other sources that I came across talking about, okay, how healthy are these sugars? How healthy are these substitutes for sugar, these sweeteners? And so now let's talk about the sweeteners. Pretty much know about the sugars, and with respect to sucrose, the biggest representative of the sugar category, I think that you're now justified in not having it on your breakfast nook for reasons heretofore that you already had enough reasons, but now you got more reasons, more scientific basis to be able to shun the use of sugar, and as a consumer, and I guess the enlightened one in your neighborhood and in your family, bring it up and talk about the fructose content next time it comes up in conversation. Okay, so what about sweeteners? A whole category of substances has emerged with the idea of avoiding table sugar and still getting that sweet taste that all of us seem to enjoy. Well, there's a category of sweeteners, and they're called the sugar alcohols, sometimes referred to as polyols, which I had never heard before. Anyway, there are a number of representatives of the sugar alcohols. You have heard some of these. Here they come. Sorbitol, mannitol, maltitol. I hadn't heard of that. Erythritol. Hadn't heard of that one. There are hydrogenated starch, hydrolysates. Boy, that's a mouthful. Hadn't heard of those. And all of those are manufactured from cornstarch. We'll get into that in just a minute. How about there's another representative of the sugar alcohols, and that's called xylitol. Another common sugar alcohol. It's manufactured from such sources as corn cobs, sugarcane bagasse, and I didn't know what that means, but what that means is stock residue remaining after sugar extraction, or birchwood waste. Now there's another group of sugar sweeteners you may have heard of also, one called isomalt and one called lactitol, and they're becoming more common and are manufactured from sucrose and whey, respectively. We'll get into that too. So those are in the Crack Research Department's quest to find out what are the sweeteners. Those are them. And now let's find out about what they are all about. Something could end up on your breakfast nook called sorbitol. What is that stuff? Well, although small amounts of sorbitol are present in some fruits, the commercial source for sorbitol is, as I mentioned, cornstarch. And it's manufactured by hydrogenating, meaning adding a hydrogen to the dextrose that's recovered from cornstarch. Sorbitol is about 60% as sweet as sucrose or table sugar. And as such, what you need to know is none of it degrades into, it's an alcohol. It's the first thing I want to make. Sugars are sugars. Alcohols are alcohols. And even though you may find that they're coming from natural sources where certainly sugars are well associated with, the fact that it's an alcohol automatically puts it in the category where I think the simple way to put it is there is no fructose issue. With any of these, it all becomes a matter of how much sweetness are you looking for. And as it turns out, you can jazz that up pretty good to almost be the equivalent, and then you can even supersede the sweetness of table sugar. So using table sugar as your standard, are things too sweet or not sweet enough? Well, you start picking your sugar substitute based on how sweet you want it. And as we find out, sorbitol, which is chosen by many, has about 60% of sweet as sugar, but you don't have to worry about the fructose connection. It's an alcohol, not a saccharide, not a disaccharide. Next up in the store as a representative is mannitol. Also can be used on somebody's breakfast nook and to sweeten not only drinks but also sweeten baked goods that might want to be made. Interestingly enough, because this first caught my attention, mannitol is manufactured from fructose. And I went, whoa, that looks like a real problem. They're trying to avoid fructose. They make mannitol from fructose, would probably need to avoid it at all costs. Turns out, not the case. The source of fructose is cornstarch, but during hydrogenation, where they add that hydrogen atom, the fructose molecule rearranges to the sugar mannose. That's why this alcohol is called mannitol, because once that hydrogen gets added and it's a new compound and it's now mannose, you no longer have to worry about fructose. All the alcohols, if it ends in OL, it's the alcohol and it is safe, and you just need to be selecting it based on its sweetness. By the way, mannitol, about 60% as sweet as sucrose. Is that good enough for you? Well, the numbers are good higher, so you can check and find out if, in fact, you want to use mannitol or sorbitol based on the sweetness issue. There's one I haven't heard of too much before, this maltitol. It's manufactured by hydrogenating maltose, and it's the reason I mentioned it. It's about 90% as sweet as sugar, but it is an OL substance, not an OSE substance. Consequently, it's an alcohol, and even though it is manufactured from hydrogenating the disaccharides, once it's hydrogenated, it's a new compound, and it doesn't break down into fructose again. Consequently, there is no fructose issue to be concerned with. Now, here's one that was raised the other day, one that I use myself, and that's this stuff called xylitol. Xylitol has approximately the same sweetness as sugar. You see, that's probably why it gets chosen. It's just as sweet, not 60% up, not 90% up, but the same as. Xylitol provides the greatest cooling effect. What is meant by that? Well, it turns out that on the tongue, as you breathe over top of it, as air passes over top of it, there's a cooling effect that occurs as the air passes over it. It's been compared to a mint flavor because of this cooling effect, and that's something that's found absolutely is a part of the reason why I think people can and do enjoy it. But xylitol does not break down into any fructose component whatsoever, and of the sugar alcohols, it is equivalent in its amount with respect to the sweetness of sugar. They're equal. Another product is called isomalt, and it's manufactured from sugar, table sugar. However, it gets hydrogenated, remember, and turns it into this substance called isomalt. You won't find it. What you are finding commercial uses for isomalt. It's not something that you really find and place on your breakfast nook as a source of a sugar substitute or sweetener for you. And so I only mention it to make the topic complete. And so there you have them. Those are the sweeteners. And so part 2 of the crack research is now completed. It's time for another little break. We've got part 3. What about stevia? Gotta talk about stevia, don't we? It's certainly on the breakfast nook of many out there listening. What about it? I'll talk about it when I return. Be back in a moment.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. Have you become confused about how best to manage your health?
Yes.
There's just one caller waiting, and I won't leave you for that one call.
Thank you.
Another expert has got another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instructions, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you are looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Honey, just got the word. The company's new health plan has a $5,000 deductible. We have to make sure nobody gets sick this year. Remember what those doctor's visits cost for last year's colds and flu? Well, sorry, I gotta go. Love you.
We can do this. We can cut the fast food lunches, soda. That's a lot of sugar. We could all take that evening walk. And hey, I heard a program about fruit of the spirit. What did they say? 1 ounce, the equivalent of 5 servings of fruit with herbs and minerals. We could add some to our breakfast protein shakes. Fruit of the Spirit is unique whole fruit puree. Fruit of the Spirit contains fresh fruits native to the Holy Land and alkalizing minerals from the Dead Sea. With no added sugar, Fruit of the Spirit is a unique product from 5 years of work from science-based nutritional experts. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. Fruit of the Spirit, convenient, affordable, and delicious. That's 1-800-442-3793. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to An Impact on Your Health here on this Friday Get 'em Up Out of Town version of the show. It's turned classroom on you a bit, but I felt obligated, since I raised and opened so many cans of worms, to do the research that it would take to complete a logical discussion of this. There is one more element to go. We're going to talk about Steve in just a moment. In the interim, however, somebody took me up on my offer, giving us a call right now. You're on the show with me. Come on ahead. What's on your mind?
Hi there, Dr. Courtney. How are you?
I'm great.
I have a response to xylitol.
Oh, go right ahead.
Okay, it's very harmful to pets.
To pets?
Uh-huh. So, like, they tried and sugarless gum that has xylitol in it. It can kill them.
Well, now, there's something that didn't come up in my research. Thank you so much.
Yes, Dr. Michael Hutchison is on the radio on Saturday mornings on KDKA. He talks frequently about xylitol and watching your pets with that. So if you would use it in something you would bake, you would give your pets some, it might be very harmful to them.
Well, now, there you go. I'm wondering, you know what, I'm going to find out about this veterinary thing, and I need to enlighten myself. You caused the light bulb to go off. Human consumption-wise, there really is no problem with xylitol, as I could determine. Do you know any issue with respect to xylitol in human consumption that's a problem?
No, I've never heard of that, but do you remember maybe about 6 months ago there was an animal that ate the sugarless gum while the man wasn't home and he died. 2 of them, I think, died.
The animals died?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
There's something in there that's harmful to their kidneys. I think it shuts their kidneys down.
Well, I'll get to work on that. This is interesting. Thank you so much. Human-wise, I'm not finding any literature that says anything bad about it.
No.
Certainly with respect to the fructose connection, there is no fructose to worry about.
Well, the lady that called in on Wednesday, and I didn't get to respond, it said that she used it in her baking.
Yeah, you can use it in your baking.
Well, if you know, a lot of people give their dogs.
Yeah, that's the issue. Be careful what you give your dog, especially if you're using. Okay.
Okay.
By the way, probably good to keep all those sugar substitutes. I didn't realize that this connection just with xylitol. Only xylitol? None of the other sugar alcohols?
Michael Hutchison. Do you know Dr. Michael Hutchison? He's on Animal General out in Cranberry.
I actually have heard the name. I've never met the gentleman myself.
Well, maybe you could call out there and find out about it.
You know what? I think I will do that.
Yeah, it'd be good to know.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day, hon.
Uh-huh.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, that's why we love those sisters out there. But a word of caution about xylitol with respect to the animals. Hey, how can it be so toxic in animals and so friendly to humans? That does raise a question. Well, at least as I'm sure. As an alcohol, sugar alcohol, no fructose issue here, and I can't find any toxicity issues that have been raised with respect to humans. So, as we come around that gun lap, by the way, I still invite you, if you'd like to get more of these little delectable things to pass on to our listeners, just like the one we just got from this past listener, 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. I'll listen for a knock on the door, and we'll bring you in here before we actually have to. We'll be hearing bongos. You know how it works at the end of the show. All right, let's get to this last category, because I think it, by the way, is in its own category, simply because it's not a sugar, it's not a sugar alcohol, it is a glycoside. Completely different category of chemical structure, chemical substance, and by virtue of it, I've got to tell you, completely safe. I see there's one issue, one notation. I'll bring it up to you in the literature where there has been detrimental statements made with respect to it, but only one reference, and it certainly has been disproven has been attempted to be scoffed at with respect to even believing that reference should be taken into consideration. But here we go. Stevia is an herb. It is called Stevia rebaudiana. How about that one? And it comes from, and it's in the chrysanthemum family. It grows wild in a small shrub in parts of Paraguay and Brazil. This glycoside is found in its leaves, including up to 10% something called stevioside. Now that's an IDE. Glycosides have IDE ending. There is no formation of fructose with this substance. And that stevia side, which is found up to 10% of the glycosides in those leaves, account for its incredible sweetness, making it unique among nearly 300 species of stevia plants. A little bit of folklore and history behind it. There are indications that stevia has been used as to sweeten a native beverage called mate since pre-Columbian times. Here's the point I want to get to. There was a bad rap on stevia, which is a glycoside which can't degrade into fructose, and so consequently, as a sweetener with respect to fructose, it cannot have the consequences of your table sugar, as well as agave, as well as, by the way, honey, as well as, by the way, all those fruits, which do have a fructose component. Turns out that dozens and dozens of tests have been conducted worldwide on this substance, and it's found to be completely non-toxic, so these studies exist. It also has been consumed safely in massive quantities. They say thousands of tons annually of this stuff gets consumed, and it has been going on for the last 20 years. Now, although, and here's that bad notation, which I feel compelled to bring to your attention, although one group of studies performed in 1985 through 1987 found that one of the metabolites of the stevia-sides, which is called steviol, they found it to be mutagenic or cancer-causing, okay, towards a particular strain of salmonella bacteria. Now, there are serious doubts as to whether the study is applicable to human metabolism of stevia, but nonetheless, it was a notation. It occurred in terms of those years of 1985 and 1970 research, but you can't find any other mention of it before or since. In fact, the methodology used to measure the mutagenicity of this test, they say, was flawed, according to a follow-up piece of research which also seriously questioned the validity of the results. And it seems that the majority of scientists have just missed this one group of quirky studies happening in that 2-year period way back in 1985 to 1987. Can you do the same? I think it's safe to say you could. I just have to be honest, to bring it to your attention so that this is an accurate discussion, and that notation was there, and so I bring it up to you. But this stuff is extreme. We carry it in the office, really, and still do. The forms that this is found in, I mean, it's found in powders. There's actually one formulation. We had the gentleman who founded the company that first brought this substance to the United States. The gentleman owns that company, and I see the product there on some of the printouts that I made. Sweet Leaf Stevia. Sweet Leaf is the name of the company, pretty sure. And it comes in packets, it comes in a granular, it also comes in liquids and comes in various flavors. Some are quite tasty, and you can use those to sweeten just about anything up. There's one preparation that actually isn't for consumption. It's so strong with respect to the amount of stevia in it and the form of stevia that it's used as a topical antibiotic preparation. And it was interesting when it was brought to my attention during that radio show that if you get a wound, you take this stuff and you put it on the wound, and because it's so sweet, and its level of being literally pungent because it's so sweet is so high that the bacteria gulp this stuff because they look at its sweetness and they feel, wow, this is wonderful. Thank you so much for giving me a drop or two of that stuff. But what happens is it's so sweet, the mechanism within the bacteria cannot handle it, and the bacteria actually dies. And that is an interesting little component that I thought I'd bring to your attention with respect to stevia. So, it is an IDES substance. not a OSE substance, so making it easy for you to walk around and appreciate and have the knowledge and understanding. If it has OSE on the end of it, it is a sugar, and table sugar being the representative, high fructose dissociation, a 50-50 split, and with that, the uric acid levels will go up, and the potential consequences will actually increase exponentially because of it. Most of you don't use sugar. You gave it up a long time ago, but if you still are, you need to be moving away from it and moving towards the other substances which could provide you with sweet. When it comes to the sugar alcohols, these are the OL substances, the xylitol, the sorbitol, the mannitol. Although some of them are literally made, in fact, the mannitol is made from fructose, except when it's hydrogenated, a new compound emerges, and it is not toxic in any way to the body. And you just select which one of those you want to use based on how it compares to the sweetness of sugar. Xylitol is literally 1 for 1. You get this unique little thing that was raised by our caller. It says, may be okay in humans, and I'll tell you, I can't find a reference that says it isn't. May be okay in humans, but watch it out for the animals, especially baked goods that may be made from it. And then stevia, go right ahead with stevia. It's an IDES, a glycoside, and consequently extremely safe. That's the definitive word. Have a great weekend. Things are going to cool down. We'll heat them up again on Monday morning when we return. Jimmy Roberts sometime next week. We'll see you then, folks. Bye now.
AM Impact on Your Health is sponsored by Dennis J. Courtney, M.D., Director of the Courtney Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002 for Dennis J. Courtney, M.D.